Healing is a relational game. It is like tennis. It's like hitting the ball back and forth. So you only can get good hitting the ball back and forth. And then you get to see, oh, I got caught up right there. Oh, you know what? I got scared.
Yeah.
I got scared in that moment.
Welcome to the Black Mother Wound podcast, where we center the stories of Black women as we heal from the painful relationships with our mothers. Welcome to the Black Mother Wound podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Arnese. What's up, you guys? I've got something very special. I'm a little bit excited. I'm a lot excited. I'm a little bit nervous because this is the first time I'm doing something like this, but it's all good. We're going to have our first guest on the Black Mother Wound podcast. Yes, you heard that right. We're going to be talking with one of my former Resolve students. She came into my DMs like maybe a little bit before Christmas, and she asked me a question. She wanted my advice, basically, about what to do in a situation with her mother. And I was like, oh, I bet a lot of people are going through what you're going through. I know for a fact they are, because y'all be telling me. And I asked her, would she be okay if we discussed it on the podcast? And she was like, absolutely, of course, sign me up. So we're going to basically have a coaching session as the episode this week. I'm very excited about this. I think it's going to add a lot of value for everyone out here. And I also think for those of you who feel alone and feel like you're the only one and don't feel like you're connected because you think nobody has gone through what you're going through, I hope that in doing this call, and hopefully there will be more like this won't be the only one, you will understand fully that you are not alone, right? That is really what this work is about. Aside from you healing, but you can't heal if you think you're alone. So I hope you enjoy it, and let's get into it.
What's up, Alicia?
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm really good today.
We're both really silly, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how are you doing? Are you nervous?
I don't know if nervous would be like the primary emotion. I would say excitement. So
Excited.
you know how that like feels similar.
Good. Awesome. But, yeah, but you know the difference, right? It's something you can lean into.
Yeah.
Yes. Y'all can tell that she's one of my Resolve students because she's naming her emotions, right?
Period.
A period. And this is how I am on Resolve, right? I am this way. It's the same. I'm the same all the time. Okay. So I was telling them before you jumped in that you sent me a DM and you were asking about something about your mother. And I was like, oh, that would be something great for us to talk about, because I know a lot of people are going through it. I have an episode about it in the past, but I thought it was great to have someone who's going through it kind of speak to it, and we just go through it and ask questions and figure it out and see if that's a jumping point onto something else and see where that goes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about the message that you sent me.
Yeah. So I have been no contact with my mom for, I believe, about 3 years now. And specifically when I say no contact, it is an occasional text message exchange between she and I. My mom was present throughout my entire life. Her and my dad raised me and my siblings. I grew up nicely, middle class, like no complaints when it comes to that. I am the only girl out of my siblings. So, being my mother's only daughter, we were close growing up in a sense. However, I did always feel like there was something lacking emotionally that I wasn't getting from my mom. And when I went off to college, that is when I just started to really realize that our relationship wasn't as close as, I don't even know if I would say wasn't as close as I thought it was. I think it was more so I realized that there were certain things that maybe she wasn't able to give me or be there for me in. And that led me to kind of like distance myself in a way. And then, yeah, ended up making the decision to go no contact a few years ago, just because there was a lot of things that made me realize that it just wasn't a healthy encounter. It wasn't a healthy relationship. So my question to you was around, now that I am like being very intentional about healing my mother wound, I feel like I'm like reaching that point in healing where it's like, okay, what might it look like for me to re-engage with my mom? What do I actually even want? This also like kind of came up around the holidays. So I'm like, is this just that piece of it? So it's like the self-trust part is coming up where I'm like, do I trust myself to make the right decisions for myself, or am I just like overtaken by emotions? So yeah, I wanted to kind of just like explore that and externally process that with somebody who obviously like, you do this.
So I guess my first question, and y'all, I ask a lot of questions, right? This is a collaborative thing because I want you to come to conclusions. Even when I talked about no contact in the past episode, it wasn't like, yes, you should, or no, you should not. It's such a personal decision. And one thing that I said was, it's never a final decision. Like you can no contact, then go contact, and then go back no contact. Like so you have room in there. So I always like people to understand, like, you have choices, because oftentimes it feels like this is one and done. And if it's not the right decision, it's all is lost. And y'all know what I say is like, all is never lost. It's never that way, right? So my first question to you is, what made you consider, outside of the holidays, what makes you want to go back into contact with your mom?
Okay, I'll just go with the first thing that popped in my head because that's probably the closest thing to the truth. Honestly, my niece. So my oldest niece is 14 and she's my brother's daughter. And so I feel like I'm missing out. And so I guess maybe it's a little bit of FOMO. I also am no contact with my brother, but I went no contact with him before I even went no contact with my mom. So part of me is like, maybe if I can tolerate her, then like that would be an entry point for me to be able to spend time with my niece. That's a whole complicated situation, but I don't know. I feel like there's just a little overall, just like FOMO. Like oh man. And I guess even probably packed up on top of that is like, yeah, I miss her.
Yeah. I think that's a great place to start, right? That I miss her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is perfectly okay,
Yeah.
And I think that helps soften the whole situation. You know what I mean? Versus, well, I'm gonna go through her. I'm gonna tolerate her so I can get to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And we would never want anybody to do that with us.
Exactly.
But sometimes it takes kind of getting to it to be able to say, like, well, maybe having a relationship with my niece will give me an opportunity to connect with my mom. You know what I mean? Maybe that's something me and my mom would have in common.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe that's a soft spot for her. It's a soft spot for me. And maybe we can land in the middle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Would it be enough? So let's say you were in a relationship, you went back into contact with her. The main thing you all had in common was the niece. Right? And I guess what I want to talk about are expectations. Because I try to be future facing to answer as many questions that your little girl already has so we can set her up for success. Because then you say, well, I'm back in my mom's life and we found this soft spot that is my niece, but she doesn't really ask about me. Right? Would that be okay?
I think so. I feel like that's a big part of what I've been healing through is that like I don't need my mom to like me or be interested in me.
Okay. That's a bold statement.
Yeah, I know that's probably easier said than done.
Right.
But yeah, like that's been, I would say, a core tenet of healing my mother wound. And like you always say, this is about healing the relationship with myself. And a lot of that is wrapped up in like recognizing that my mom doesn't really like me. And I'm okay with that. Like I like me.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's different for everybody because
Yeah.
especially when you can not have an expectation that is unrealistic,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you handle or would handle conflict when things come up, right?
I was gonna say I think that's my biggest concern because that's why I was like, I can't do this anymore, was because we don't fight, we don't do conflict well, but we both can do conflict, if that makes sense. Like, and I recognized that like one, it was unhealthy. Like I can't heal through these blockages, like whatever is like what's getting me riled up, I can't heal because I'm either, like you said, expectations. I'm having unrealistic expectations for her for how I want her to show up for me. And then I'm like hurting my own feelings by doing that. And yeah, and then it's causing me to act in a way that's not in alignment with the person that I am and that I desire to be. And so stepping away was necessary. And I feel like there still is that lack of self-trust piece of like, can I handle if I'm triggered
Mm-hmm.
and not backtrack myself, if that makes sense.
So what happened in the past when you were triggered?
Just arguing, saying things that don't need to be said, just going to a place like I would get into an argument with my mom or like we would just have conflict and it would just like take me out for days. Like I'm spiraling after. And I don't have the time or the capacity for that.
Yeah, to recover.
Yeah.
Recover from that. No, I get it. I totally get that. So I guess when I look at stuff like this, I look at like a plan,
Mm.
right? I look at like a pre-engagement plan, an engagement plan, and a post-engagement plan,
I
right?
like
Does that
that.
make sense? Right. And so when I look at a pre-engagement plan, it's like y'all know how if you've been in Resolve, I talk about like how you take care of yourself and like the basics are have you eaten? Have you slept well? Have you had a bowel movement? I always start with like those physical things that let your inner little girl know I'm taking care of you and you are prepared to go out in the world. When my
Mm.
son was small, we're not going nowhere unless he done took a bath, he's eaten, he's pooped, and he already had a nap. Now I know we have a few hours out in the world before we got to come back, right? So you also have to kind of look at it like that as well, especially because I think we were talking about this off camera, that barrier to entry,
Mm-hmm.
kind of getting back into it, like taking the first step, you're putting your toe in the water and it's cold. How do I prepare myself? How do I let myself know I'm going to keep you safe, in this situation, right?
Yeah.
And so I look at something like that, like how you're prepared, how you're rested. I would never go into contact with her if you're already tired or irritated.
Right.
And there are other boundaries you have in place that you may not even discuss with her that might be, if she calls me, I don't answer the phone. I call her back because that way I'm not reacting to her
Mm-hmm.
communication. I am proactive in the communication. So even if she calls and I don't answer and I call her back 3 minutes later, it
Mm-hmm.
still gives me a chance to prepare. Like,
Yeah.
okay, she just called me and my heart is in my throat. I'm super nervous. I'm tired. I'm all these types of things. I'm in the car with somebody, whatever it is. It's like, oh, I don't have to answer the phone right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm going to give her a call back. And you could even send a text like, hey, not able to pick up. I'll call you back in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or, I'll call you back a little later. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that way it starts to give you more autonomy and authority over your experience. Right.
Yeah.
And that helps you build trust in yourself. Like, oh, I know how to take care of myself. And you haven't even engaged yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? And when it comes to engagement, the plan there is knowing why you're communicating, right? And I'm talking a lot about this early in, right? While you're kind of
Yeah.
getting your footing. And who knows how long it might take to get the footing, you know what I'm saying?
Very true.
But like, why are we engaging? Is this conversation about, hey, I'm going to come pick up my niece on Tuesday? I was invited to something. What is the point of this call for you?
Yeah.
Because you need to know how long you're going to be on the phone,
Right.
right? All of
When the
this,
topic has been discussed,
when
it's
the
over.
topic has been, yeah, especially if there's no natural progression,
Yeah.
right? And it kind of goes from there. You also have to, I'm not saying you have to, but this is something to think about. In those beginning conversations, if you decide to go contact, are you going to pick up where you left off like nothing happened? Or is there going to be a re-entry conversation?
Yeah. I've thought about that and even what that would look like. Like in my mind, I guess I always was just like, yeah, what does even reinitiating look like? Like, are we getting together and getting lunch somewhere at a neutral location? Like, is it just me texting more frequently? Like, I don't know. And I guess that's something I need to explore as
Well, that
well.
goes along what is the goal? Is the
What's the
goal
goal?
to maintain contact in a way that we are civil, right?
Right.
And if we can maintain a civility, talking once a month, once every other month, a meme here or there. When we see each other at family events or holidays, I can pop in and pop out, and we're cool like that. Or is there a goal to get close?
Hmm.
And I think you don't know if you can get close without knowing where the relationship is. You know what I
Right.
mean? I think you got to put one thing before the other and see if that
Yeah.
works, right?
Yeah.
I think you should give some thought to what a re-entry conversation looks like,
Yeah.
and maybe writing something out as like a letter, like, hi mom, this is Alicia. We haven't talked in a long time. I've been thinking about you and I miss you. I would like to know if you're
Hmm.
open, right? If you're open to, re-engaging with me. And I'm aware that I'm the one who ended contact. I'm very, I'm aware.
Right.
Like, well, you're the one who's talking to me. Like, you are correct.
Right.
You don't even have to go back and forth.
Ended.
It did. Right. And it doesn't even need to be, and this is why, because you're
Right.
correct. So it doesn't mean you have to go back down memory lane,
Right.
but I would like to know if you're open to re-engaging with
Yeah.
me. I don't have all the answers of what that looks like now or in the future.
Yeah.
It's like that, right?
Hmm.
Are there any people that you and her both talk to that can put some feelers out there for you?
No, and given how our relationship historically has been, I'm not even comfortable with that.
You're not comfortable.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to say this succinctly. Like, stuff like trying to like ask other people about her
Okay.
is, yeah,
No way.
that's a part of the mess
Got
of why we got here.
okay.
Is like, yeah,
Okay.
that stuff.
Okay. So then that brings up another question. How does you being back in a relationship with your mother impact the people around her and other people? You know, because it kind of bleeds over. How does that impact relationship with siblings, aunts, cousins,
Right.
aunties?
It's affected, like, I've never been the type of person to be afraid to talk to anybody or be in certain spaces. So my mom's side of the family is all long distance. And so it's not like in my adult life I saw them often anyways. I will say, like, a couple Thanksgivings ago, my mom's side of the family came here for Thanksgiving, and like a couple of my aunts reached out and was like, "Hey, we're in town. We'd love to see you." And I said to them, I was like, "I'm happy to meet with you off site." Like, I'm not coming to my mama's house. Also, just simply because, not because I'm afraid, but like, that's not the first time after however long that I want to re-engage with my mom, if I ever choose to. Like, that's not the context, it's not the forum. So if you want to meet with me, I'm happy to. We can do coffee, lunch, whatever. I can show you around, that sort of thing. I went and visited my cousins because they had stayed at an Airbnb when they came to visit. So yeah, like, I would say it's like she's doing her thing and I'm doing my thing. And I don't think either of us are like talking about it with other people. Like, I've had family members who were like, "Oh, I didn't even know you and your mom weren't talking."
Right.
Which is also a thing too. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if it's like affected me. I can't speak for how it's affected her. I'm also forthcoming about it. So if people ask me, like, "How's your mom?" when they see me, I'll go, "As far as I'm aware, I think she's fine, but my mom and I lost touch a few years ago." So
I want y'all to hear how
my people know.
Yes, I want y'all to hear how she said that, because this is a thing where oftentimes you guys don't know how to communicate to others the relationship, and it makes you feel awkward and you don't know what to say. I loved how she said that. Y'all need to write that down. Like, go back, listen to that again. As far as I know, she's okay, but we lost touch a few years ago. Well, I never said I lost touch. She didn't say, "Oh, we went no contact. I don't fool with her no more." You mean she doing her thing? You can see what? No, we lost touch. Ooh, I love that. I feel like I want to use that.
Please do take that. That took me a long time to arrive to, because I found myself when people would. So, also another just quick backstory. So my dad passed away some years ago. And so when I run into people, like, I live in the same city as my mom. And so if I happen to run into people who know me kind of distantly, often an entry point into that conversation is like, "Well, how's your mom doing?" And I'm like, "I'm right here. You can just ask me how I'm doing." Like, I didn't know she was the topic of conversation, but sure. And I used to, I don't want to say lie, but I used to be like, "Oh, she's fine. Like, she's good." And in my mind, I'm like, I actually really don't know that.
Right.
And it felt like a front to me. And that was just my own personal thing. I was like, I want to be confident about all the decisions that I make. And not that I need to tell people my business. It's not their business. But I also am not going to sit here and like put on a facade just to like move through it. I'm going to address, I'm going to be honest about it.
Yeah.
And that's just been a part of me being, like I said, confident in my decisions.
Yeah. And I think that is a evidence of personal autonomy also.
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is the choice that's best for me. I'm not responsible for how you receive it, how you feel about it, or how you perceive me once I say it. I love that. Kudos.
Because, baby, people be, "Well, you only have one mom."
I know.
And I'm like, Lord, I didn't know we were having therapy in this moment. Well, you needed this more than I do, but okay.
Yeah, clearly people know, like, you're stepping over a boundary right now. So thank you. God bless. I'll see you next time. So yeah, the work is working. I love that. Yes,
Yeah. And I'm
absolutely.
not ashamed. I'm not ashamed. So and I think it just like takes people aback. Like, wait a minute, you
It
don't talk to
does.
your mother? And I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Not only does
really?
it take them aback that you don't speak to her, but that you're honest about it. Because there are a lot of people
Yeah.
that don't fool with their mama, but they won't say anything. So the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you're saying something about it is jarring
Mm-hmm.
because what is it in their life that they're not able to be honest about? Right? You know,
Yeah.
that the little child in them is like, oh, I want to be able to say that. I want to be able to tell it what it is and keep it going, right? So
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. Well, it sounds like that's a dynamic you won't have to deal with because I think it's good to
Mm-hmm.
look at all the players on the field. And now it looked like it's just tennis. It's you and her. It's not a football match, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that helps, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So I think that if you still want to re-engage the relationship, it is about asking, it's like getting consent. You know,
Yeah.
are you open to that? Are you open to re-engaging? I don't know what it looks like. We don't have to, well, you got to also ask yourself this. In this relationship, at any point, do you think that you're going to want to bring up the past to kind of get some clarity like, well, you did this thing and you didn't apologize and that happened and I'm still really hurt about these things. Like, are you going to try
Mm.
and do an accountability moment?
I hope not. I think that's part of, I think that's also where like some of the fear comes up is that like, if I get old Alicia, like I'm also trying to like remind myself that I am also a different person. I made this decision intentionally because I knew there were certain blockages that I was not healing from because I was engaging in these like toxic conversations. So part of me is like, if she say something, am I gonna want to clear the air?
Right, right. Yeah.
Right. And yeah, like do I trust myself enough to just like let, if something comes up, let it roll off and then adjust from there. If that means that I need to take a step back, like you said, I don't have to, I can go contact and then go no contact. So
And there are
yeah,
levels of
I
contact.
hope that we don't, I don't feel like I need anything from her.
Okay.
I think is the big thing. Like I don't need us to recall anything. Like if she needs that, I think that's kind of where I imagine she might have questions or she might have memories of things that she might want to talk about. And I think that's where I'm unsure. I don't want to get into a place where I'm feeling like I have to explain myself to her or we're recalling things differently. And at what point am I like, okay, this is not productive? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's part of it too, is I learned at a young age that there was a certain point in emotional maturity where, and I say this with humility, like not ego, but that, there were certain things that I was more mature about than my mom. And so I think that is part of what internally has been contentious for me is that like I've wanted her to show up for me in certain ways. And when we get into these modes, it feels like we are two teenage girls bickering, like high schoolers. And so it's just like, I'm like, why do I have to show up as?
Yeah. Why do I have to be the bigger person? And you're
Yes.
right.
And
Yeah.
you're my mom.
Yeah. And I don't like the word bigger or smaller or go high
Yeah.
or go low because I do both.
Right.
I'm human. I do both when necessary. I do think it's good that you know that you're not looking for something. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and go through this thing. And I think even with being, I don't think being triggered is a bad thing. I want people to understand
Right.
that, right? Because being triggered is letting you know something that needs to be healed. So if you're running from the trigger, you're running from the healing. I'm going to say it again. If you're running from the trigger, you're running from the healing. Okay. And how are you doing the work to prepare for the healing. And if you're doing the healing work all along, when the trigger comes in, it kind of goes into your, let's say you have like a healing machine, like a healing processing machine, like when meat goes in and it comes out as sausage on the other end, like it has a place to go. You're like, oh, okay, I process the emotion. Okay, I see it from a different perspective. Like all of these things happen. And if you're doing that, you don't have to run from the trigger. That's why healing is a everyday game that you're playing, right? You're always processing emotions. You're always tending to yourself before crazy shit happens. So when it does pop off, you already, you know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
can, right? So I think you're good there. And I also want you to know that it's not, even if you make a mistake, it's okay. Even if you fall into the trap of, God, dog, we set up here and I went back and forth with her for a good 10 minutes. I hate that. That's why I didn't want to talk to her ass no more. Versus, okay, that is to be expected. I'm doing a new thing. I'm re-engaging in a new way for the first time because we've engaged. I have more experience having these catty conversations than I do having a mature conversation. So it's going to take me some time, right? Oftentimes in healing, we want to do all the healing work over in a corner by ourselves. So when we pop out, it's perfect and I don't make any mistakes. And that is impossible. You can only get good at it by doing it. Healing is a relational game. It is like tennis. It's like hitting the ball back and forth. So you only can get good hitting the ball back and forth. And then you get to see, oh, I got caught up right there. Oh, you know what? I got scared.
Yeah.
I got scared in that moment. And when I got scared, I lashed out. Okay. And that's when you come back to your inner little girl, hand on chest, hand on belly. You got scared. It's okay. It is perfectly normal. You got nervous. You got shooketh. It makes sense. You did a good job. Like it was really brave for you to even step out there and do this. You are doing a new thing. It's going to take some time. Right. And I think that also helps, that helps you prevent that spiral that we're trying to hover out of when you can come back in and be super attentive, at the time of bleeding. You don't stop the bleeding an hour later. It's like, soon as you see blood, apply pressure. Because then you can stop the bleeding early. And instead of spiraling for 3 or 4 days, you might just, in the beginning of this, you might need just a few hours to get yourself back together.
Yeah.
Which is normal. But you can't run from the impact of contact, right? Because that will show up in all your relationships. Because this is what hey, did I say a word?
You did. You called me out.
Yes. If we can learn to have autonomy in regards to our mother and in relationship with her in whatever capacity, we can do anything with anybody else because she's the most powerful figure in our life, right? So if you can conquer that dragon, baby, in this.
Oh.
So, well, what's coming up when I said that?
When I see traces of what triggers me in my relationship with my mom, in relationships with other people, I'm like, I done already experienced this with her. I don't take this from my own mama. So I'm not going to take this from you. And I'll be like, with other people. And I've distanced myself from other people. I don't know. I guess I don't want to go on like this like apology tour either, or this like making amends tour. So I mean, I don't know. I recognize that a boundary of mine is like basically if like the vibes are off, I'll remove myself from the situation because like my energy and my presence is a gift. So you don't get access to me if the vibes are off. But I'm also just like, is that unhealthy? Is that from a place of lack? Like all of that kind of comes up when you're healing of just like, Yeah.
And I think to approach that with curiosity is great,
Mhm.
right? And instead of approaching it from a guarded perspective, and
Right.
also to approach it from a there is no one size fits all.
Right.
Because there might be people that are like, they have shown me evidence that I can trust them and that they're a good person. And this situation happened, and maybe I threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Mm.
Maybe there are other people who have not given me the evidence that they are safe and trustworthy. So I put them out with the trash on Thursday, like I do with everything else. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
good.
I think it's about looking at everything individually and
Mhm.
being curious. Like when, oh, this is coming up for me. What made me think about that? Especially if it keeps coming up in your mind. I think that's something to really be curious, and instead of just ruminating on the thought, letting it take control, like asking, what is this about? What
Mm.
is coming up? Oh, I feel defensive. Oh, that reminded me of, because it's very easy and probable that we are going to meet people that remind us of our mother. And we're going to be in relationships that are similar because it's what we're familiar with, even if you don't like it. And it doesn't mean that they're the wrong people, but it's
Right.
just things that you click with, you know,
Yeah.
that you then you come back and you be like, you know, she had like my mama. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah.
But then we have to be honest and be like, oh, what are the ways that I may act like mama?
Yeah.
It be how we check ourselves, right? So I think being able to stay open and stay curious is going to be a superpower, right? And knowing that, okay, I don't have the expectation that we're going to go all the way back down the road. And
Right.
I'm not going to go all the way back down the road with her. You know, if she
Mhm.
tries to bring up something from the past that I know was a point of contention, how am I going to handle that? Right?
Mhm.
So, do we have to end the conversation, or can I redirect the conversation?
Right.
You know, it's like we both have our ways of seeing things. That's a simple statement. It's not a
Mm.
conversation. We both have our way of seeing things, right?
That's
You know,
good.
or if you feel like you're being accused of something, like of something in the past behavior, right? I made the best decision that I could at that time. Or I stand by the decisions that I made. I'm happy with the decisions I made.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, if you look at politicians, right, people ask politicians questions. The politician never answers the question. They say what
Right.
they want to say to get their message across. And you look crazy if you ask them again, because they're going to say, I answered the question. Even if it's a
Mm.
leading question, they're going to answer it the way they're going to get their message across. And as obedient little Black girls, we believe in
Mm.
answering the question. Well, why did you do that? You don't have to answer the way they want you to answer, because what they want is a whole reason. My answer is I did the best that I could at the time. I did what I felt was best for me. That's why I did it. And a good politician repeats the same thing over and over again. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
you can see if the conversation can go past it or not, right? Okay, let's say
Right.
the conversation is still trying to go left, right? Because let's say she hasn't changed and she has a habit of the way she communicates. And it's, you know, she keep going to the left and going to the left. It's like, do you want to keep talking to me, or would you rather end the conversation? Right? That's
Mm.
kind of where a boundary kind of comes in, right? I want to have a civil conversation with you. If we're not able to have a civil conversation, then I'll just end the call
Mm.
and we can talk at another time. Again, a boundary is not a conversation, it's also a statement. Well, I'm just saying, I would love to have a nice civil conversation with you. If we're not able to do that, then I will just end the call and I'll talk to you at another time. I'm just saying, click. Bye, mom. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Right? Because we teach people how to treat us. And I can hear somebody saying it now, but she my mama. I shouldn't have to teach her how to treat me.
Right.
Before she was your mother, she was just Barbara Ann. Being a mother does not give a person some type of superpowers. And love does not teach you how to communicate. It doesn't teach, it just doesn't, right? Biology doesn't, it doesn't, it's a fairy tale. This is not Disney World. We have to come out of that if we want to heal, right? And we want to come out of a victim mentality. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think those are things to consider. So now you have a pre-engagement plan, you have an engagement plan, right?
Yeah.
You think that's a good engagement plan?
Yeah, I do.
And now your post-engagement plan, right? How do you soothe yourself after that? Because it's like, I would imagine a rush of emotion coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like you going into 12 feet of water and all the whole time you're trying to figure out, am I going to make it out? And then you do make it out. It's like, oh, I did. I made it. Right.
Yeah.
I could do more than what I thought I could do. Like, I'm proud of myself. All of those things can be very overwhelming. And so being prepared to soothe yourself in that way, laying on the couch, a hot shower, a tight hug from your husband, journaling, crying, whatever it is, giving yourself that space, right? And then assessing that engagement and saying, okay, from that engagement, what do I do next? How do I engage next time? Right? Because this is a one time. After each one, you have to reassess because this is a whole new relationship we're building. So it's like, okay, based off of how I laid that brick, where do I put the next brick? And is there a place in me that feels like, I didn't know this, but now I'm feeling hopeful, like maybe we can be close. Let me call her. And you know what I mean? Like all of those things that come up versus let me stay in my lane, right? How do I manage my expectations?
Yeah.
Do you come back with a text? It was really nice talking to you. I really appreciated it. Like, thank you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you've grown, Alicia, now. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like you go to interview, you're like, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. I hope to see you again. Right?
See you soon.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Even that sets a boundary. It's like, oh, she's communicating different. It's not cold.
Yeah.
The warmth and a vulnerability there. But there's also a grownness in that. And then you will decide the next time you engage. Is it a phone conversation? Do you go out to lunch? Whatever it is. But I want to say, I hope this doesn't sound crazy, like stay diligent, right? Don't slip. This is all, I talk about my healing journey like being an alcoholic, right? I talk about emotional sobriety, you know that.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I stay emotionally sober in this situation? Because it's almost like somebody who can't drink, but I have to, in order to engage, I have to go someplace where they sell liquor. You know what I mean? So you really have to take care of yourself in that post engagement. Does that make sense?
Very, yeah.
And some people might say, girl, that's too much damn work. I'm good. But I also think that it's less about the relationship that you're building with your mother and more about the relationship you're building with yourself in this process. You know what I mean? Like that becomes the benefit also. The ways I'm shoring up my autonomy, the ways I'm learning to trust myself. Because like I said, if you can slay this dragon, you can slay any dragon. When it's time for a big contract with your company and you like, this is $100,000 contract, they want this many shirts and they want this. I know how to come in and talk to powerful people. I'm not a child, right? I know how to engage. So what do you think about that?
Mm, that was good. I like how the post part really resonated because a big part of my wound is expecting her to show up a certain way and hurting my own feelings because I'm going to her with more than I already know that she has the capacity for. It just, that's just what it is. And so, yeah, my concern has been, what if she is like thinking from this hypothetical re-engagement that we're having at this point? What if she, for example, a couple years ago, I had like been responding to her text a little bit quicker than I usually do because I'll be needing a moment to think about it. And so she called me and I didn't answer, and I ended up responding back and was like, "Hey, I'm not ready to talk." So I'm concerned that she's gonna be like, "You trying to do this? Or you trying to do that?" And da 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 afterwards, and then I'm gonna have to be like, "Whoa, pump the brakes, calm down." And I don't know. I don't know why that like makes me nervous.
Well, I mean, it makes sense that would make you nervous because it takes you to a space where you don't know how to navigate. So of course you will be nervous in a situation that you don't know how to navigate, right? So I want you to kind of validate the emotion of nervous, right? Okay, you feel nervous. Okay. This inner child talk is all the time, right?
It is.
But that can also become a part of your pre-engagement plan. It's, hey, are you open to re-engaging? I do want to move slow. I don't believe our relationship will be anything like it was before because I'm a different person, right? And when, let's say you all talk and she starts blowing your phone up, hey, well, you want to come over here? You want to do that? There goes another conversation. Hey, mom, it's going to take me some time to get used to us being in the same space.
Yeah.
And I can't go back to like the way it was. It's never going to be the way it was. And I'm going to take a couple baby steps. I appreciate your enthusiasm though.
Yeah.
I appreciate your enthusiasm that the fact that you want to be around me makes me feel good. Like all of these things are true. It feels good that you want to be around me, and I feel like I have to protect myself at the same time. Like both of those things can be true at once.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want you to know that I might not be as engaging as you would think. And I don't want you to, I don't know if I want to say I don't want you to, because how she receives it is up to her.
Yeah.
Just, it is not a rejection. It's just time.
Yeah. I don't want to hurt her feelings.
Well,
I think I know I can't, I know that, but I'm saying like, that's not what my intention is.
Absolutely.
Like you said, like, it's not to reject her. It's not to like, take her for like, I'm not trying to like get revenge or anything,
absolutely.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it genuinely is like, I'm curious.
Right. Yeah.
I'm
right.
curious and I'm open but I love how you said, like, I want to move slow.
I have to pace myself. I really do. And how she takes it is how she takes it, because that's fair. But I do like, and I'm glad that you do want to engage with me. I think we are learning how to be this is a new relationship. Yeah. And we have to learn how to be together in a new way. And I'm open to doing that. And I hope you are too. Right? That's all you can do. And if you're met with, feeling like you're being manipulated, like, well, that hurts my feelings. I just thought that. I understand. Goes back to the boundary. I still do have to move at this pace. I hope that's so. Are you open to that? The rest is up to her. Yay or nay. If she says yes, awesome, cool. What are you doing in a couple of weeks? Let's go to lunch. So even if you do engage with her, make it a high quality engagement. And then toodaloo. And that's all you can do from there. Like you can't prepare really that far ahead. Well, if I do
Yeah.
this is gonna happen. And I don't want to do this because that's gonna make this happen. You cannot do that because that will create a whole lot of anxiety and anxiousness. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like, stay in your lane. Pre-engagement, engagement, post-engagement. Each time you're going to go through
Mm.
each of these as you get comfortable in the engagement. What are the new boundaries? Okay, you might have a conversation and come back and you might feel some type of way. I ain't like how that was. But you may not have had the words for it. Okay, what boundary do I need to create? Like,
Period.
I believe in scripting. I believe in scripting out the boundary. If she says this is the boundary thing that I want to say. Boundary is I want, I need, I expect.
Mm.
Go back to the homework. These are the things I want. If you were not able to do that, then the accountability is this thing. And write out your 3 pieces for your boundary and kind of practice them. So when it comes in, you can kind of be preemptive in that and you're not harboring old feelings. And it's like, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, this was good.
Okay, I'm glad. So the big question we all want to know is, and you might not have an answer, do you think that you're going to re-engage?
I believe so. This has been on my heart and my mind. I mean, I think I hit you up in December and it's February. So the fact that my spirit has not let it go is prompting me to at least consider what we've talked about further.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want you to create a pre-engagement and engagement and post-engagement plan. And then I want you to look at your calendar and I want you to pick a date. The date could be October. I don't care when the date is.
I mean, that's
date. Don't do October.
like 2037.
37. Right. And my retirement party. You're invited.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But I want you to pick a date. So all of the emotions can come up. All the fear, because then that's when the real gonna come up. You're gonna be like, I'm really still kind of mad at her for that shit she said when I was 18 and she didn't do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like expect the toilet to get backed up. And like, so you have time to deal with all the shit before that time.
Yeah.
You just keep putting it out. That is not going to help you. Right? That procrastination.
Yeah.
Look at your calendar. Well, I'm going to be out this week. Because remember, you got to be well rested. You got to have time. And you say, are you open to us engaging? Yeah. Are you going to text her? Are you going to send her an email? Are you going to call her? Okay. If she says yes, then what do you want to do? Do you want to just have a phone call? Okay. Can I call you on Tuesday? Like really schedule it. Like really keep it professional in the beginning. Okay, then we'll have a phone call. If the phone call goes well, maybe we just have another phone call, or maybe we will have lunch. Or I come over. Maybe I won't go to her house. We'll meet somewhere neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the month of April, we'll talk twice, see each other once. Rinse and repeat, make adjustments as necessary. And for everybody out here listening, don't take this as a cookie cutter way to do it. Because you might be saying, well, my mom is this and she's that. It ain't going to work for me. Then it might not work for you. But for somebody, this might work. Okay. If you are considering re-engaging with your mom, I think this is a solid plan that's practical, actionable, and helps you to feel safe while also continuing to build a relationship with yourself, which is what healing is about. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. This was great. Any last things you want to say to wrap it up?
Oh man, just thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. This is super helpful and it's given me a lot of clarity and I can get out of my head about it, like, oh, this is all of these things, and this gives me a very clear next step. And I love the idea of a deadline because I work off of deadlines. So
You see how I put that in there,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
My ideal clients and students, they are the super nerds, right? Smart, oh, achievers, like
Yes.
get it done, bring an apple to the teacher's desk. All y'all, that's the people I be working with. So I already knew when I said a deadline, it was gonna
Yeah.
she ain't gonna let me. Come out. You're not gonna slide. Okay. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity and for sharing with this community, right? I think it's going to be super
Mhm.
valuable. Thank you for your
Yeah.
vulnerability. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for trusting yourself. Okay. I'll talk to you later.